Hey everyone, welcome to my channel AnyManyTech. In this video, we will learn about Python variables. So variables in Python are basically the names that we provide to any kind of data that we deal in Python language. So we can say that this is basically a temporary storage. Now, whenever we have to define variable, it can consist of letters, it can support uppercase and lowercase, it can also support digits and underscores. But one thing to note here is it must start with a letter or it must start with an underscore. It cannot start with a numeric value. Now we can create the Python variables by assigning a value to it using the equal to operator. And finally, the most important thing is it is a temporary storage and we can change the value of this variable by reassigning it. So these are some of the theoretical concepts. Next, please understand that variables in Python consist of two things. So it has basically two characteristics. One is the name and second is the address. So for example, we can have employee, that is EMP, as the variable where we can store some name for that particular variable. So for example, whenever I define EMP equal to Michael, right? So in that case, the EMP is basically my variable and Michael is the name of that particular variable. Additionally, this variable will also have some address that is attached to it. This address in variable is basically called as object memory address. Now again, you have to understand what is object. So object means a collection of data and functions. So basically we can say that everything in Python is basically an object. Now let's learn about the syntax for using variable. And after understanding the syntax, we will go back to the Jupyter Notebook and try to perform the operations on variable. So to understand the syntax, all we have to do is we have to provide any variable with the help of equal to operator. So here if I say EMP equal to Michael, so EMP is basically my variable and the name of this variable is Michael. It will also have some address attached to it. Now if I type EMP in Jupyter Notebook and try to get an output, I will see the output as Michael because Michael is the variable name that is attached with EMP variable. Now in the second step, if I change the variable name of EMP from Michael to John and again try to print the output for it, this time I will be able to see the output as John instead of Michael. This is happening because variable is a temporary storage and we can change the assignment within the variable. Now we will go back to the Jupyter Notebook and try to see some examples. Alright, so now within Anaconda Navigator, I can click on launch option on the Jupyter Notebook and it will open the Jupyter Notebook for me. What I have to do is I have to click on new here and then notebook. So it will create a new notebook. Let me open this. It will ask to select a kernel. I can select Python 3 and then I can see some cells. Now, in order to define the variable, let us define some variable. So example is EMP. So EMP is basically the name of my variable. Then I'll provide the equal to operator sign. And then you can use single quote or double quote or triple quote to provide the characters or basically the strings. In this case, I am going to use double quotes. Usually we use triple quotes when we have multi lines of code. Otherwise, in most cases, we use single quote or double quote. So I will provide the name of this employee. So maybe some name of employee. So Michael. And then I'll click on this, run this cell option. Now I want to see the output. So I'll simply type EMP and again hit on run. Now let me make a change and I will say EMP equals John. So instead of Michael, I am saying John. And then again, I'll write EMP and click on run. So this time you see the value is changed from Michael to John because EMP is basically a variable that is a temporary storage and the value that we enter within this variable will change as and when we define the new names within this variable. One more example. So EMP equals Mike. So maybe this time within single quote and let me see what I get here. So again, you see that the result that you see is basically Mike. Now let us see one more example. So this applies to numeric as well. So for example, there can be one more variable xy equals 1, 2. So let me record this and then I will hit on xy to see what is the output. Now you see the output is 12. Again, if I say xy equals 11 and then try to see the output for xy, the output is changed to 11. So basically it can support string as well as it can support numerics. Now this is all about the naming part of variable. So basically whenever you are writing emp or whenever you are writing xy, you are provided with the name that is stored in that particular variable. So now so far we have understood that whenever we define a variable and then try to print the output for that particular variable, we will get the output as the value or any name that is basically assigned to that particular variable. But then if you remember, there is one more part to variable, that is the address of this variable. So if we want to understand what exactly is the address where my variable is actually stored, so how we can check is, let us try to understand that with an example. So let me define one more variable here. The name of the variable is student and the name of the student is Donald. So I'll hit on run and then I'll see student. So you see that I am able to see the output as Donald, which is basically the name that I have provided within my variable. But then if I want to see the address of this particular object, right? So you remember that this is basically an object because everything in Python is object. And if I want to see the address of this particular object, how I can do it is I have to write print and then within bracket, I have to write ID and then the name of the variable, basically the variable. So I'll have to write student. Now let us click on this run. So you see this is basically the address of my variable. Now one more thing to note here is if you change the value within this particular variable, the address will also change. So let us verify that as well. So again, I'll write student equals Mike, hit on run and then I'll write student to verify if this value is reflecting. So the new value is reflecting now. And then what I can do is I will write print ID of student, right? So print ID and then within bracket student. So when I do this, I will get the address for Mike this time, right? So this address is basically for Donald. Now I want to see what is the address for Mike. So let me click on run this cell. So now you see this is the address. And if you compare, this is different from the address that we get in the previous step. So this way you can understand that the values or the objects, the different objects that are stored in any variable will have different address associated with it. So this is all about variables. So that is it for today. Thanks for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.